Nowhere in the instructions does it tell me how long to make this thing. It does tell me the diameter for the Forstners, which I have. This one's the right size. This one is a 1/16 of an inch too large, and at first I thought, oh boy, now I'm going to have to run down to Lee Valley or somewhere and get a different size Forstner. But then I read further on, it says that you can make this hole a little bigger if you want. Yeah, so because I don't know how long to make it, I've assembled the mechanism here so that I can tell by eyeballing it and laying it on the work, just where to cut everything, and like for the knob at the top and the body at the bottom, I'll be able to see. And I just assembled it here using little screws that I had. I probably, like most of you guys, I saved little screws. Anyway, little nuts and bolts, you know how it is. Goes back to my Meccano days, I think. Anyway, yeah, so thought I'd just mention that. Now, in the event I was to accidentally make it a little bit too long and I couldn't screw this on the end, well, I could always, cut the top down a little somehow so that the threads here would fit out the top. But if I was to accidentally make it too short, then the threads only go down so far here. Now I can thread it a little bit more further down, because I do have a die here that will actually fit these threads, same diameter. Anyway, I think you know what I'm trying to say here. Let's get at this. See if we can get this thing almost done today. One of the regular viewers picked up on the fact that in all likelihood I do not know how to pronounce the name of this wood. Now it's Wenge, and in my mind I was saying wenge, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't actually even try. But it's actually pronounced wenge. Now I'm thinking to myself, if I didn't know that, it's possible other people didn't too. So that's why I'm mentioning it. But anyway, let's see if I can figure out now where I have to part this off. And obviously the little knob at the top is going to be up here, and the bottom will be pretty much where it is right there. So I'm going to probably try and part it off right about here. But I have to make a little tenon that's going to go down into the hole that I'm going to be drilling up through the body here. So I'm probably going to part it about 1/2 inch wide. Now I have to remember here that if I'm going to be going in at approximately 1/2 inch, that means that this piece here, which is going to be the top of it, is going to drop down to right here. So that means it'll be a little shorter. So that would mean that if I want this much thread, I'd actually have to cut it up here. Anyway, I'll worry about that later. Let's see if I can make a part in here. Just make it so it's a little easier to see here. Well, now that I've got the diameter turned down a little bit more, I'm able to put this little plexiglass cover over. Maybe it'll help keep the dust chips from flying back at me to make it sucked in instead of sucked out. And I've been talking about making a part. I actually, that wasn't the right term. I should have said I want to go in and end up with a tenon on this piece here that will be 1 1/8 inches in diameter, because that's the diameter of the hole that's going to be drilled down through the body. Now there's one thing else I should add here, and that is that this is not a tutorial on how to turn a pepper mill. This is just as though you were here in my workshop with me, watching me bumble through my first one. So let's just have fun with it. See what we end up by the end of the day with. And I'm going to crank it up to about, almost 1,000 RPM. Well, that's pretty much got it. I've got it more or less, maybe at the right hand side there, it might be slightly under 1 1/8", but at the top it's pretty much 1 1/8". Now what I have to do is I have to cut it off right in here. I'm not going to use my parting tool because that's going to shorten my tenon. I'm going to just use this little saw here. Now I obviously know, first I would think, well, the easiest way to do this would be to have the lathe run and just run the blade down into it. But I can well imagine that the blade could catch and kick back pretty good. So I'm not going to do that. So I thought, well, I'll just saw it off. Then I thought, well, I've got to take this piece out anyway, because it has to be remounted. So, yeah, it'll be a lot easier to saw if I don't have it mounted in the lathe here. So let's try and find another place to mount it. Now, for those of you who wonder why is it that I have an old chair in my workshop, well, now you know. Never know when it's going to come in handy. Now, I just realized something here, and I realized it just right now, that I am probably the only woodworker who does not have a proper woodworker's vise. Well, maybe someday. Maybe. Yeah. Now just drill it out. Now, I did entertain the idea of using my bandsaw, but using a saw to cut something round, what sometimes can happen is the blade will catch and it will all of a sudden start spinning on you. Now I know it probably wouldn't, being as the blade was already this far in from the outside diameter, but anyway, this worked. I'm going to move my lathe over into low gear here. The way it's set up right now, it'll go up to about 3,200 RPM or maybe a little better. So I'm going to put it in low gear. Maximum it will go is 1,200, but I'm going to be wanting to, drill holes with the Forstners and going to need a lot of torque, so I'm going to change it for that reason. It's actually quite easy to change. Try and do it so that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm sure everybody's got a lathe that does something similar. Okay, now the maximum it's going to go is about 1,200 RPM. However, the torque it's going to have with this 2 horsepower motor is going to be pretty good. Well, right now we're only turning about 60 to 70 RPM. I'm not going to drill it out that slow. And the plans say to run this Forstner in about 1/2 inch. Now, because this is a little bit uneven here on the end, and I'm going to want to turn it down slightly to get rid of the glue squeeze out and so on, I'm going to go a little deeper. So right now I got my caliper set to 1/2 inch, So I'm thinking if I go in until this surface here is flush with the outside, it should be just about right. And I'm thinking probably about 300-400 RPM is plenty fast enough. And another thing, I may as well take advantage of the dust collector. Okay, we'll speed it up. Okay, that's 500. Maybe that's a little too fast. Yeah, there's 400. Now I thought I had my chuck pretty tight, but obviously I didn't, because as you probably noticed, it did slip a little. So anyway, now while it's in position here and all centered, I may as well do the other one. This is quite warm. A lot of friction going on there, I guess. Now, as you can see, I'm only going to be able to go about halfway in, and I'm going to have to come at it again from the other side. I hope I'm going to be able to manage. I just won't put this all the way in. Now, there should be less torque on this one because the diameter of the bit is a lot smaller. But I'm going to make sure I get it nice and tight here. Okay, I don't want to get that too tight and accidentally break, crush the wall that I just created there. But you know what, fellas and gals? My knees are really killing me right now. And in order for me to enjoy this, I don't want to be standing here in pain. So I think that's it for today. We'll see what we can do maybe tomorrow afternoon. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.